Everybody, welcome to Yerushalmi Megillah Daf Chaf Beis Amud Aleph. We're at the very top of the Amud here. Is Tani Tani Menocha Zu Shi Loi? We had referenced this earlier. The pasuk Ki Loi Vasam Adata Ela Menucha Vel Nachla says Tani Tani Menucha Zu Shi Loi Nachla Zu Yerushalayim. Is Tani Tani Menucha Zu Yerushalayim? The opposite Nachla Zu Shi Loi. Manda Menucha Zu Shi Loi. Where do you get it from? Get it from the pasuk. It says Ki Loi Vasam Adata Ela Menucha Vel Nachla. So Nachla comes last. Menucha comes first. It's referring to right. So Menucha must be referring to Shi Loi Nachla Zu Yerushalayim. So we see Nachla Zu Yerushalayim. I'm sorry, so Menucha is referring to Shiloh. Nachla Zu Yerushalayim, where do we see it from? Because it's Ayat Tzavua, Nachlasi Li. Mandam Nachla Zu Shiloh, that's the other way around. Hoyso Li Nachlasi Ka'arye Biyar. And Menucha Zu Yerushalayim, so it's Menucha Si Adiyad, Payesha Kivisiya. So that's referring to, he learns that's referring to Yerushalayim. Lacha. So la'echad. So now the question over here, obviously, again, is what's really negate to us is to know is what's the story of the Isra Habamas. So le'echad. The Gemara says it's a mashal le'echad to a person shasulei chavila. He was carrying a backpack v'yaninach and he stopped to rest. Kach ba'moyed nesru Habamas. So similarly, the same by the oil moyed in the midbar, the Habamas were also. Rabbi Gilgal, Hutra Habamas. When they got to Rabbi Gilgal, so they then the bar mitzvah hutter was kind of like an in-between period. That's the resting period. Bashila again, Moshe was more kind of set, as we said, it was kind of halfway between the Mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash. It was stones in the bottom. Nesra Bamis once again, Benovi Givlin, where it was kind of a transitional period. Hutra Abamis and Birushalayim, Nesra Abamis, and that was it. And it never became out. You can't go and build your own bama in backyard and bring kabbanis. Lemelech, and he says it's similar. It's a marshal lemelech to a king. She'amal Avdei told his servant Al Tishtayain, don't drink wine. Lo mitferyev, lo mikisrim, lo mitzipoirin, or beintayim. Is mutter. No, it's don't have in these specific places. In these specific places, don't have any wine. In other words, don't build a bama. In some of these other, but between these places, there you can drink wine. Or over here, you can build a bama. Kach ba'al moyed. And over here, the Gemara goes through Kappa and Moed, that's Rabban Chasa Achas, they did 39 years, the Gilgal Asra they did 14 years in Gilgal, Shevesh Kivshu, Shevesh Chilku, at the time that they conquered it, and then the time the 7 years to split it up. But Shiloh also Shlosh Meis or Shishim Tesha, Shiloh lasted 369 years. Benoiv Givon, also Chamishim Sheva, it's a total of 57 years between Navi Givon, Shloshas Benoiv, 30 Benoiv, Abba Abba, and 44 years Begivon, which Laim also Bebinyan Rishon, Abba Meis, Veser Shana. 410 years. Rovinu Achrein, the second base of Migdash was Abba Meis Vesim, was 420 years of Kamash Nema. Gadol year covered the base as Achrein Minorishan. That the second base will be greater covered. In this case, the Gemara is saying it's referring to the amount of time that it stood from over the first base Hamigdash. Hadran Alach, Perik Megillah Nikris, Hadran Alach, Perik Megillah Nikris, Hadran Alach, Perik Megillah Nikris, Blineda, Malchatov, we finished finished the first parak of Pesach Megillah, start the second parak. Tankum de Perik HaKodesh Megillah, Mafreya Lo Yatsa. If you read the Megillah backwards, Lo Yatsa. Pipashis is referring to the Psukim. Just read the Psukim, you go start from end to the beginning, that's backwards. Kara al Peh, if you read it Bal Peh, you read it by heart, Kara Targum, where you read it in Targum. And Bechal Lashon, where you read it in any language, Loy Yatza. It's even Targum American at Yatza. Avokornas Eloy as Belaz. You can read it to foreign speakers in a foreign tongue. V'aloy Shesham Ashuris Yatza. And it's a loy is a low, somebody who's from a foreign tongue. He doesn't necessarily understand Ashuris, that's Lashon Kodesh. He's still Yaitza, even though he didn't understand what he was reading. Okay, now again, obviously the Mishnah kind of a little difficult to understand, so I was going to go through it now. It's got to be in the correct order. Kar al peh So again, the ksiv kiksavam. You're reading it al peh, you're not reading from a ksav. Kar targum also liyotza the ksiv again kiksavam. So if you're reading it out, it's written in. I believe the Gemara is saying is that it's written in Lashon Kodesh, but you go ahead and read it to Targum again. You're not yotza. B'chal lashon lo yotza the ksiv kiksavam b'chil sheinam. So it's got to be, it has to be read the way it's written. Just thinking, it says Kiksa Mechil Shainam, the mashmos is whatever the local language is. But again, you could say maybe it's referring back to the Yehudim of those days. And they spoke Lashon Kodesh. Maybe. Okay. Rabbi Yoinama Tana Nachman Barad, or Rabbi Yoisama Tana Nachman Saba. V'hoyu, it's Bederech, have Yos in you. It says in Shema V'hoyu, right? Right? It says V'hoyu Shema, yeah? I'm sorry, V'hoyu Advar Me'ela Shanei Chutzav Chayim. It's V'hoyu Shema, yeah? So you read it that and that teaches us. It says v'hoyu advar me'ela that you have to read it v'hoyu. V'hoyu it's existential, and you have to read it the way it's written. That's referring to Shema. Tani Appa Halal with Kriyas Megillah can, and the same thing would apply not just to Shema, but in Halal and Kriyas Megillah as well, like we said. So Nicha zok the Gemara Nicha the Kriyas Megillah dikse kiksavam. It says kiksavam. So okay, makes sense. Bramba Halila, where do we see that? And the Hala has to be read in the order. In order. Begin diksiv mimizach Shem Shad Mavoyim Hulu Shem Hashem. Mulu Shem Hashem is what? Mimizach Shem Shad Mavoyim. No, it's from sunrise to sunset. In that, in the it's the same way you don't start at sunset and go work your way backwards to sunrise. So Hal's read the same way. Smat Shmamino. So when it says again, what exactly his question is, Machlekes Mefarshim. Um, so well, this is maybe the carbonate. I think has the most Pashup Shat is much. In other words, Dilma the carbonate is Dilma Kra Kipashte. Maybe you just saying, in other words, you should praise Hashem all day. Amra Amrav Avon Oidi Amura Al Seid that actually the Hallel itself is said, if you follow the Kapitel Tehillim, as the Gemara is about to say, you'll see it's written in a certain order. How's it written? But Mitzrayim Lisha'ava, right? That's going on when they left Mitzrayim. Loilanu Hashem Loilanu is going on Le Doirois. Not sure how Hallelu fits in over here. Well, Hallelu is in other words, praise Hashem going forward Le Doirois. Ahavti ki yishma Hashem is limois Mashiach. Okay. Isru chag b'avoisim limois goig u'magog. That's referring to the wars of Melchemes Gog and Magog. And Keliat ve'deka. That's la'asid lavoi. So you see, it also follows in order, so it makes sense to read it in order as well. Okay. Rabbi Yosef b'shem Rabbi Echad b'zur b'shem Rabbi Laza v'hi shetehei ksuva b'la'az. When we say that you can read you can read the Megillah Loyazos, to foreign speakers and whatever their local foreign tongue is, means it has to be written in that language as well. What are we talking about? So if we're talking about over here that it was written in Ashuris, and you translate it, no, it's written Lashon Kodesh, you translate it to Laz, we learned in the Mishnah, it says, now, im kishaisik suba balaz, im kisham, so there's a girsa correction over here. Im kishaisik suba balaz. So you say, all right, it's talking about where the Megillah was actually written. Bilaz. And what did he do with Tigma? And he translated into Ashuz and Lashon Kodesh. Hadoide tonim abein svarim Megillah Esther elo shesvarim nichtav mechalosh Megillah Esther we say nefteves ella ashuris. So I can tell me it's written in Laz. It has to be written. We saw that a few minutes ago. That has to be written in ashuris. It was written in Greek, and as we see brought down Yaftalakim Liefes. Svarim can be written in Greek, very close in terms of kedusha to Lashon Kodesh, and that's when we say Laz, we're referring specifically to Greek. Okay. Tani Shmuel, let's say Tavish mit Pasuk Echad. A guy's reading the Megillah and he forgets, he leaves out a Pasuk accidentally, V'turgama Metargim, but to his luck, especially in those days, and I think they still do this in Taimani shuls, where they Metargim actually everything that they learn. So the Targum, he was on automatic, so he keeps going and he translates the Pasuk, Yatsa. So he says, one second. Ananam Ruchaloshin lo Yatsa. We just said a minute ago. B'chaloshin is lo Yatsa. V'atam ahachin. And that's what I'm telling me that the Yatsa Yatsa. I'm thinking, well, Shmuel Kidate, the Shmuel is Shitasa, the Shmuel Ama Hoisik Suba Kihilchasa, Halos Yotze Bebelaz. If it's written Kihilchasa, it's written as Shuris. And a person, as long as it's written in Ashuris, it's written Lashon Kodesh, Halos Yotze Bebelaz. A law as a foreign speaker can be Yotze even in his foreign language. And Chaim Kanievsky points out that even though l'chayre it's a problem of karal peh, it's not written in Laz, it's written in Ashuris. But Chaim Kanievsky says that since you're reading it from the Ksav, it's not considered to be al peh. Um, I guess maybe similar to the way you have words in the Torah that have a Kriyan Ksif. Okay, Rebbe Vo b'shem Rebbe Lez Yodei Ashuris Yodei Laz. Eina Yoitze Bo Elo Bashuris. We're changing the Gershon to Chaim Kanievsky's Gershon, which is somebody knows, which is more in line of what was in the Mishnah. Somebody who understands Shuris, he understands Lashon Kodesh. He is not Yoitze in a foreign language, he's only Yoitze in Lashon Kodesh. But Laz, if he only speaks Laz, then Yoitze Bo Belaz. Now, Freti Gemara, Yodea Shuas Yodea Laz Mao Shiot Yodea Chen Belaz. Okay, you're saying, well, he himself personally, if he understands a Lashon Kodesh, he's only Yotz in Lashon language. What about if he's in a crowd? So he's a guy, he's in the middle of the flyover country in America. He's the Chabad local Chabad Shliach, so he speaks, he understands the Shuas, but his audience does not speak Lashon Kodesh. Can he be mighty them by translating it into English? So surprisingly, the Gemara's answer is Yevika do kol shenechai b'dava in emotzi esarab midechavas. We know the famous rule that if you yourself are not mechuyev in the mitzvah, and you have that by women many times, right? You can't be mighty somebody else in the mitzvah that you personally are not mechuyev in. So the same thing over here. Since he himself he can't read the Megillah Bilas, since he speaks Lashon Kodesh, he cannot be mighty other people in reading it Bilaz either. All right. Have a wonderful rest of the day.